If you falsely accuse a man of being your baby's daddy, it's called parentage fraud, and it's no joke. It's a new era. Ladies are legally free to be with whomever they feel free to be with. And for some women, an honest mistake could be made. Just make sure you're sincere and you've done your homework. And if you're making a legal claim to force a resistant man to claim your child as his dependent, make sure you can back it up with the facts.
This scenario highlights the complexities and emotional turmoil surrounding family dynamics, identity, and the consequences of deceit.
So who sent our anonymous DNA text? That turned out to be my cousin, bio dad's brother's son. I believe he was told the story and he felt bad. And my personal Facebook was attached to my business page, Facebook, which had my contact info. So he's able to contact me like that. And I'm glad he did. If I sound like hot garbage, I'm recovering from COVID. I feel grateful that he told me. There's nothing worse than knowing people know something about you that you don't know. No? I feel like after realizing bio dad was not the one who had sent the text, I feel like it made a little bit more sense, because he might have kind of closed off to the idea of ever being able to meet me. So maybe that's why it was difficult for us to be super close at first.
The father who raised the daughter was deeply impacted by the revelation that he was not her biological parent, leading to feelings of betrayal after dedicating 32 years to raising her. The daughter's curiosity about her biological father suggests a natural inclination to understand one's origins, even amidst her loyalty to the man who raised her.
Okay, for everybody here for the daddy story, I have an update for you. My dad who raised me is driving in to visit me as we speak. I'm going to see him for the first time in 4 years, since before COVID. And I am nervous because he is the one who raised me to be non-confrontational. And you're having two non-confrontational people having a confrontational conversation. And it's going to be emotional, and it's going to be, I'm dreading it, but it needs to happen, right? We're just going to say the whole, you're still my daughter, you're still my dad. I'll probably fill him in on what's been going on between me and bio dad, but there's really nothing, I feel like I've recently got to this point where I accept the role that he is in my life, and he's kind of a sperm donor. I don't get this parent vibe from him. I don't get this feeling that he wants me in his life. And, it's hard for me to explain, but just trust me when I tell you this. From when we met, from our communications, I just don't really get that vibe. And that's okay. He didn't ask for me to be born. So he doesn't really owe me anything. So my dad is still my dad. My dad who raised me is still my dad. So hopefully it's not going to be super awkward. It's so weird to think it could be awkward with your dad, literally the person who raised you. But so yeah, after getting over the definite rejection that I felt after meeting him, I just realized he's not the one that sent the text message. He's not the one that facilitated me finding out this information. So, it hurt, but that's life, and I had to move on. So I will move on to the family that I have and that I still have contact with, which is, my dad and one of my sisters. It's how it is. I was reached out to by a couple women at some podcast company about making a podcast about my story, and I don't feel super good about it. It was this fear. It almost came across as this fairy tale story, right? Of this, literally a movie where the mother keeps the daughter from the dad, and he follows her, and then they find each other and they look just alike, and it's beautiful, and they live happily ever after. And it's just, it's it can be like that, but we're just not like, you know, it's just not like, it's just trust me.
It raises questions about the nature of parenthood. Is it solely biological, or is it defined by love? The advice about DNA testing reflects a concern for safeguarding one's emotional and financial well-being in a world where trust can be easily undermined.
He wrote me a letter. So he basically says, like, that, you know, he's not very good at talking and having those kinds of, conversations. Either am I. Clearly, we haven't really spoken too much about it. But he says, like, obviously I'm devastated by this news, but my concern is only for you. And then he said, like, you're my daughter. You're always my daughter. He goes, you're my girl. He said, none of that's ever going to change, but that, like, he'll be here for me whenever I'm ready to talk about it, but, like, no pressure. He said, like, don't take this letter as a, as an indication that you need to reach out right away. He just said, I want you to know that I love you and care about you. I feel like, if anything, it just confirms that I really lucked out in the dad department. I mean, for real. Despite, like, maybe not... my bio dad not reacting as emotionally as I maybe expected him to. Really, like, how fucking lucky am I? I've been kind of emailing back and forth with my bio dad a little bit. He still hasn't really acknowledged the whole TikTok situation, but for the best, I guess, right? No news is good news. If anything, he probably just saw it and was like, no big deal. My bio dad's been, like, kind of talking about our families meeting up this summer, which would be, oh my God, I'm sorry I keep clearing my throat. It should be really exciting. I would really like him to meet my kids. And I'd really like my husband to meet him and all that kind of stuff. So that would be ideal, but we'll see what happens. I was working today, and I told one of my longtime customers about, like, the story of, like, what's going on. And she was like, oh my God. She's like, is this a real story? I was like, yeah, it is, actually. I swear at some point of me telling that story, every single time, I have, like, a moment of shock being like, am I talking about myself? Is this my story? So, yeah, I mean, that's your update, guys. Really no conversation with my mom since the toxic emails came through right before Christmas. For the best, right? Okay, here's up close, no filter of my makeup. Bye.
The cycle of deception and its impact on relationships underscores the importance of accountability. As for the mother, her actions have far-reaching consequences, not only for her family, but also for herself.
I'm spiraling right now. Clearly. I texted my dad today, my bio dad, kind of just kind of clarifying some information. And, I find out that he really didn't consent to having a child at all, and it was all done by manipulation. My mom wanted another baby and told him she just did what it took to have another baby. It's just like, I feel so guilty, He didn't ask to have a child. I can't imagine what it would be like to not consent to that. It's like, imagine all of a sudden, like, questioning if you should even exist. Like, almost wishing you didn't for the better of him. But my sister says, so what? You found out you have a different dad. So fucking what? It's not that big of a deal. It's kind of a big deal. It's kind of a big deal. Like, I'm not a puppy. You want a baby? Go get IVF. You don't go lie to people. You don't go pick one out at the store. Like, and then lie and never tell somebody. It's just so inconsiderate. And I'm so disappointed and embarrassed to be the product of somebody so inconsiderate. I'm embarrassed. I'm just starting to feel like this man owes me nothing. And no matter how close or not close he is to me, it doesn't matter because he genuinely doesn't owe me anything. You know, if he never talks to me again, he doesn't have to, because he literally didn't want me to exist. Not didn't want to, just didn't consent to me existing, you know. Let me just clarify. Ultimately what happened was that my mom wanted another baby. She was unable to have a baby with my dad who raised me, and manipulated somebody into doing the act and lied to them about being on birth control in order to have a baby. And it was successful. So here I am, and I'm gonna be okay. Everything's okay. You know what I mean? Ultimately, everything happened. It's over now. I'm already here. But yeah, I just am like kind of going through the emotions of finding out that you have a different dad at 32.
This narrative serves as a cautionary tale about the importance of transparency and the potential fallout from unresolved issues in relationships. What are your thoughts on the dynamics presented here?
I didn't clarify in the original video, but people do go to college outside of being 22. They were 35 and 25. So yeah, we are no contact. It's nothing I used to say my biggest fear in life was losing my mom. We were enmeshed. We were so close. I will never be that close with anybody. And I feel like now as I get older and I get more farther away from it, I feel like it was probably intentional. But maybe that's just me being cynical. No, we don't have contact. This was right after something humongous that had happened. So this wasn't just a one-time issue. This was like, we had been going through so much. This was like I was almost numb to the pain when I got hit with this. And it was like, are you kidding me? Like it was unbelievable. She like really continued to lie about it, and yeah, more stuff, but never say never. Maybe one day we'll have a relationship, but for right now, I am protecting my peace. And yes. You are so right, Jacqueline. How dare we hold narcissists accountable for their actions? How dare I judge her for lying to me my whole life? My dad my whole life. My bio dad my whole life. My entire family our whole lives, right? Probably shouldn't judge her for buying me the 3-day juice cleanse when I was 9, or taking me to Weight Watchers when I was 13. Who cares that she almost slept through my wedding and the birth of my second child? Who cares that when I was in the hospital dying from an ectopic pregnancy, I'm calling her, begging her to help me with my kids, and she tells me, I can't, I'm too sick. Come to find out, she had taken her prescription of Xanax like in 1 week as opposed to a month, and was withdrawing and could die. So I got to leave the hospital Christmas Eve night to go spend Christmas with my kids. I was so excited. But instead I had to drive to my mom's house and call 911 to have them pick her up and take her to a psych ward because she was withdrawing, because she was addicted to just everything. These comments always come from people that look like Jacqueline. You know what I mean? Like guilty moms who don't like seeing their kids get upset that they were treated improperly. Last thing, I am also a mother, and I would never dream of doing to my children what was done to me. And every single day, I actively make choices to hopefully not send my children down the same path that I was sent on. I'm going to be in this spot. I'm going to be struggling with these things until I die.
And that wraps up today's episode of Manosphere Daily. If you enjoyed the content, give it a like. Be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you're notified as soon as a new video is out. Share your thoughts in the comments below. See you all tomorrow.